Hello and welcome to another edition of the Coach's Corner, where each and every Thursday, Coach Dave Serrano and I bring you a conversation with a current college coach from across the country, all levels, all divisions. And this evening, Coach Serrano is on a family vacation for the week. And so this will be me going solo today. And I'm really excited. Someone that I've been in contact with for many years and finally get an opportunity to talk live via the podcast, the head coach at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, Grant Achilles. And Grant, thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight.
Well, it's my pleasure, Walter. I appreciate it. And, I think one of the coolest parts of my job is getting to just have conversations with baseball people. So I'm looking forward to another event as such.
Well, one of the great things that, I've kind of known your background. I know you graduated from Wake Forest. I know you started your coaching career, Georgetown and I think it was Charlotte, possibly UNC Charlotte, and then was an assistant at Brown, and now you're a head coach. Talk about, the Ivy League and your 10 years tenure as the head coach at Brown University.
Well, this league it's really special. It was a place that I jumped at the opportunity to come, and I felt like I left a great situation working with somebody that I've been fortunate enough to work with and work for, and the league has just continued to improve. The quality of baseball, it's light years ahead of where it was back when I first started, and I still feel like it was a good league with quality players back then too. So you're turning out pro players. We're recruiting players who aren't just looking for the academic experience. They want to play professional baseball, and they know that the academics will position them nicely after their playing career is done, which happens to all of us, right? That we all have to hang up the spikes at some point in time.
What I love is, and on that topic, I happened to be with Bill Decker this year in an event, and two of his guys were drafted. And, when you look at the Ivy Leagues, people don't realize this, but there's like 5 to 10 big leaguers, on today's rosters that are Ivy League, educated as well as playing in that conference. One of the recent changes that has occurred within the Ivy League that I'd like you to discuss a little bit is the new tournament format.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's brand new that just started last year. How does that affect it does it affect at all with regard to recruiting, with regard to your bid into the regionals of the NCAA?
Well, it's been huge for us as a coaching group and for the players, just knowing that you enter the season with a 1 in 8 chance of winning the title. And now, instead of chasing the top 2, which is what it used to be, you're looking to be in the top half of the league, and then it's anybody's ball game. And the way that's impacted our recruiting is certainly just the practical ways and how the math breaks down and what it does to extend your season. But the excitement of the tournament, you see that's when the postseason starts for half of our league, not just 2 teams. And every single weekend holds that special weight of getting you into that top half of the league. And last year we were 2 games away, and our coaching staff and the players, we don't dwell on it, but we remember the games or the innings or the at-bats where maybe there was a pivotal shift that changed the course of our season. So I think obviously as coaches, we think about that every night as our head's on the pillow, but it's been a tremendous uptick in energy and excitement for our students and our players.
Now, a lot of parents that are unfamiliar with the Ivy League, when we start to talk about trading athletic ability for academic excellence, it's safe to say you can't get much of a stronger caliber degree. In fact, U.S. News and World Reports just came out and said that Brown, I believe they were in the top 15 as far as from value of the degree, the cost versus the degree. So you're really talking about elite academics. But with regard to baseball, what is a typical recruit? Where are you recruiting from? What type of players do you feel best fit at Brown or within the Ivy League? And are you all over the country, or are you in a specific region of the country? Tell us a little bit about recruiting as it pertains to Brown.
Yes, Walter. We're fortunate enough to be able to scour the country for players that are not only an academic fit, which does matter, obviously, but in our mind, the most important sell is who they are as an athlete and as a person. We're looking to spend an inordinate amount of hours together. And so that relationship is really critical on the front end for us to be able to build that trust, to build that rapport. And as we continue through the process of recruiting those players and their families, we're not an either or institution. And by that, I mean exactly kind of what you said. We're not asking somebody to choose athletics or academics. It's a both and opportunity, because we believe that we, like many of our peers, right? We are recruiting players who are capable of doing that heavy lift on the academic side of campus. And I don't keep my job if our team gets a 4-0. Like we want to win, right? That's in our nature to strive to be the championship team. And so as we're looking for players, we want to see players who, in their skin right now as high school student athletes, they're comfortable, they're confident, they play with energy, and they're talented, right? But then we also see a pathway towards development for them where natural physical maturity and growth, in addition to developing their skill set, helps them grow towards the player they're capable of being and the best version of themselves. So it's an exciting journey that I love going on with players. And I feel like in the landscape of college athletics recently, it's almost not, it's something that we take for granted at the Ivy League level, I think, where we truly are 4-year institutions. And I don't know that that's something that everybody feels in my position at other respective institutions.
I think that's a critical point to kind of take one step further. In other words, the landscape within college baseball specifically is really a very fluid, what I call transaction-laden sport now. It's 3 different times a year: the fall, the spring, the draft, and all these players kind of, for various reasons moving around. But within an Ivy League school, and I think it's important to bring this out because I believe strongly in that traditional 4 years of cultural, social, campus, academic, athletic life that becomes a permanent part of a young student, whether that's a female athlete, a male athlete. But talk a little bit about that. The Brown experience in Providence. We have RISD, which is a very famous school. A lot of very creative people have come out of RISD. Just check out the guy that writes Family Guy. You have Providence College and, the Big East, and, you have minor league sports with regard to AHL hockey. And then you have Brown University. So it's really a very big, and there's a lot of other Division III schools in and around Providence. But talk about that 4-year experience at a university such as Brown and how valuable that is for that transition period from, that high school young student athlete to an adult, upon graduation.
Right. We want that player that when they step on campus, they realize that the unique aspects of Providence, of our campus setting. I mean, one end of campus juts up next to downtown Providence, which is beautiful. It's vibrant. The other end, which is just beyond our left field fence, backs up to $1 million homes that are just a quiet residential neighborhood. And so that's a unique dynamic that allows us to, as a campus, as an institution, and by default a program, be appealing to players from downtown Manhattan to Tullahoma, Tennessee, and dating back several years, Anchorage, Alaska. Like we have players where they find that home, and that's not to say that we're the only place that can do that, but we have such a breadth of what we offer that players don't have to isolate themselves and their desires because of that. Now, again, there is a fit if you're looking to be at a different sort of campus feel. You may not like what you see, but that's okay, right? It's not wrong. It's just what the fit is. And the more time that I've spent recruiting at Brown, I mean, the academic side of campus does a tremendous job of selling itself. We have a dynamic called open curriculum at Brown, and that's where you're truly the architect of your own academic experience. There's a tremendous amount of support. There are advisors. There are ways that there's a network around you as an individual student that helps lift you up and kind of guide you towards your decision making. But you don't have to take a number of prerequisites. I just thinking back to my experience, there were math, science, certainly English, the core classes that you take. Well, when you get to Brown, you take the classes that you want to, and again, that's the fit for our kids. When they take those classes, they truly know that they are interested. You're still seeing students, players on our team who are STEM directed. I mean, pre-med, but they're taking business classes. They're taking foreign language, maybe public policy, things that are going to be beneficial for their unique trajectory. So factor in the social fit of where we are, where we're located, the academic fit of how things are structured, class size. Gosh, we're average class size around 16. Those components are really critical components, not just for your 40-year decision, which is important, right? Like coaches in my shoe, we're always pitching, yeah, the 40-year decision. Yes, that's true. But where are you spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? You need to love it. You need to be there, and not separate from baseball, but a holistic approach of everything together. It fits. So when we're going through the recruiting process with a player, we want them to feel that fit in all areas. We want them to know that, yes, you're not going to love every single day. All right, that's life. Like there are going to be hard days. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be times where you don't like your coach, your teammate, your roommate, your professors. But when you look at the big picture, like that place is what's helping you become your best version of your best self. And that's an exciting thing for me to be a part of. And it's what really the relationships, that's why I do it.
What I love about Providence is there's history, there's accessibility, meaning you can be in Boston in 40 minutes if you needed to.
Mm-hmm.
There's airports, tremendous restaurants, museums, theater, art. It's a very, very vibrant city. And then when you factor in the Ivy League as a whole, whether we're talking Dartmouth, Princeton, Penn, Harvard, Yale, we're talking New England, we're talking Mid-Atlantic, we're talking literally the creation and the formation of the United States at its very core. So it really does. You're part of I've always said this, when you go to an Ivy League or a really high-end caliber academic school, you're part of the fabric of all of the universities, not just one. So how are you finding most of your recruits? Do you find them at camps? Do you find them online? Do you work with people such as myself or, people all across the country, alums, former coaches, et cetera? How do you find your prospective student athletes as a staff at Brown?
Well, Walter, my staff does a tremendous job. We have a number of different Excel spreadsheets and Google documents that help us track the thousands of players that we're going through, and um, we've got recruiting software. But the ways that we get it, like we won't turn away an email, a phone call, like handwritten note. I still get newspaper clippings from some alumni that, I appreciate that side of it too. But it really is all hands on deck approach where we try to get as much information as we can. It is the camps. We love going to tournaments and seeing kids play. There's something about being on a backfield outside of Atlanta or in the middle of nowhere, California, where you may be the only coach there and you're not wearing anything on your shirt that signifies where you're from. And you get to see not just, I think the highlight that people sometimes say is, yeah, I get to see how they respond to negative actions, but you also get to see what kind of positive teammate they are, how they pick other people up, how they carry themselves in between innings and interact with their coaches and parents and other people. And I think there are often times where the camp setting, you don't get to see that because there are 100 coaches there. So they know I have to be on my best behavior. But regardless of how we find out about that player, whether, like I said, whether it's snail mail, phone call, voicemail, whatever it is, like we always talk to their high school coach and we always talk to the travel ball coach. It's kind of an unwritten guideline, but we try to have at least 3 touch points of people in their life. And if possible, talk to somebody that's not even related to their baseball career, because again, holistic approach. We want to bring in and raise up men and leaders in our program who are capable of doing not just baseball, but life to the fullest extent of their capabilities.
Do you feel the level? Let me phrase it properly. With the last 3 years, what I call post-COVID, the Major League Draft, the emphasis on older student athletes and being drafted now more so out of college than high school, maybe over the last 30, 40 years. The last 2 or 3 years have showed us the significance of college baseball. Do you feel that the Ivy Leagues are kind of feeling that lift as well with regard to the caliber of student athlete, the demand at the Ivy League schools, and the scouts know now that you're getting a different caliber of student athlete than you may have gotten maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
Yes, I definitely do think there's been a shift. And to your point, like most of college baseball, there's been that heightened sense of going to college and seeing the benefits of development and almost being able to separate yourself through the masses of people who are out there. You shrink the draft, and there is going to be a pretty quick way for you to not make that decision to go pro. It's because there are half the players getting drafted now.
Right.
So when I've taken a look at it, I think not only those aspects and elements of professional baseball, but I do think the transfer portal has, and I think right now we're starting to see it more on the recruiting end, where the transfer portal and the ripple of the effects of the transfer portal, back to that 4-year commitment. Like players want to go someplace, and it's not because they're scared of competition. It's not because they think that they're going to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's because they just the numerous conversations since August 1st. They say, Coach, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to develop, where I'm going to be and be my best player. It's not even talking about academics. And that's been some of the exciting points is we're on the phone with players that it's like, yeah, coach, I know about the academics. And just got off the phone with insert Power 5 school here. Where are you guys in the transfer portal? Where are you recruiting? What's this look like at your school? And I think that element has really transitioned some of the players and the pedigree of players who maybe weren't looking at an institution like ours, or a league like ours in the past. And again, like the kids that have been coming in this league, they still have pro aspirations, but it's not just, oh, I want to go in the front office pro aspirations. It's, I want to go make the front office money pro aspirations.
Right.
Uh,
I think one of the things that a lot of people fail to appreciate is from a cerebral standpoint. I have this gear on from Six Tool, but baseball is a very cerebral sport. Unlike basketball or football, where the physicality. Now, baseball has a physical component, but there's a much more cerebral component to it. And I don't think Major League Baseball has a Wonderlic test or anything like that yet. But talk a little bit about, you really are seeing teams, at the forefront, whether it's the Rays or the Dodgers, where that mental component is a really big deal. The understanding of situations and game management. And let's face it, that's something that you're going to learn in a very different way, or a high level way, at an Ivy League school. It's just part of the makeup that a scout or an organization is looking for now when they're drafting these student athletes. They're older, but more importantly, they're a little bit more cerebral. Would you agree with that?
yes, and I think there's some ways that actually plays to the detriment, right? The paralysis by analysis side of things.
True.
It's sometimes you want to just say, "Hey, just be dumb and play," and where we try to lean in is where that instinct can be enhanced by the intelligence, the critical thinking, and the ways things are analyzed. And our goal and objective really is um, to have players who have a higher capacity than most, right? Like certainly, um, just by statistics, right? But the players who may have a higher capacity, to have them not have to think in the moment, right? It's still instinctual. It's still something where you've prepared, but you've been able to really expand their horizons of doing that in the moment, and not have it be the pause of reaction. Well, if you pause and react, right, like average fastball is not going not going south, it's going north.
Right.
So I think we're excited every day that we get to see those light bulb moments go off where a kid, again, you want to recruit players who already have the instincts. You want to recruit players who already can think critically, and be able to grow through their mistakes, because we're going to make mistakes. We are going to fail. And the more we've seen that dynamic, in our league, it's crazy to have some of the conversations with our kids, just before and after, because they probably are 4, 5, 6 years ahead of their peers' maturity in some respects. But then also we went to the Dominican Republic this past winter as a team, and you see these players who, like, they wake up, they play baseball, they eat, they play baseball, they eat again, they go to sleep.
Right.
And so there's still a lot that our players learn from them, from the instinct side. So I think just that marriage between the two, being able to take their intellectual side and critical thinking side, and like marry that with their instincts, like that's a really exciting thing for me when we see it.
Now, finally, every parent and student athlete, they always want to know, how does a college coach want to be contacted? How does a staff? Do you want videos? Do you want a direct email? Do you want a Twitter DM? Do you monitor social media? Just let folks know, if they have an interest in Brown, how would you prefer that they reach out to you or your staff?
Yeah, great question. I think the easiest cleanest way to do it is direct email. I mean, we've got one email account that all of us have access to. It's super simple. It's baseball@brown.edu. And that way we know, I mean, that at the end of each day, that inbox is down to 0 every single day. And if there's somebody that reached out to us, if they sent video, if they sent academic information, and again, these emails don't have to be super long and involved. It's just show us who you are as a player, show us academically, and tell us how we can see you. Like, those are some pretty key things. But when they include that information, all that gets uploaded to our files, and all of that puts them somewhere on our list of what we do next. And so the email's great. If there's a personal touch or a personal contact that they have, that always helps, right? There's something to be said for that buddy that takes your resume into his buddy's office and sets it on the desk. That's kind of how it goes. But email's great. Office lines, I think, are outdated anymore, right? I still check mine, but it's probably not the most conducive for a quick response. And social media, right? Like, that is good. I personally am not a huge fan of being tagged in videos.
Right.
I think that's a lazy way to do it. Not intentionally lazy, but if you tag me, the head coach of Arizona State, a couple of JUCOs, and it shows me you don't have any clear direction.
Right.
And there's no personal touch, which I think is how you set yourself apart. It is showing direct interest in us as coaches. So do that extra click, send an email, and then we will follow you. That's my personal thoughts. But there are tons of platforms out there, tons of ways you can get your information out. I think just a few quick tips: make sure you spell somebody's name right. If you spelled it correctly to input the email address, then spell it correctly in the first line. Those emails do not get read. I get too many to parse through ones where that's not something that's showing attention to detail. But it's a really easy and free way to get your information out there.
Well, I think that right there is premium information for all parents and student athletes. Attention to detail and have a plan. Make it personal. Make it your own. Take accountability. I think it's a great opportunity for parents to hear from a college head coach the value of the attention to detail. Grant, I want to say thank you. I know this is a really busy time of year. I know we have young kids. It's college, baseball, fall. And so I really am super excited and grateful that you took a few minutes to join us. And I wish you all the best. And if there's ever anything that I can do for you, please let me know. I'm going to put all your contact information in the video, in the comments section. If you have a question for Grant that you would like me to forward, please put it below. Give us a thumbs up. Follow us each and every Thursday. Grant, thank you so much again for your time today.
Thanks again for having me, and I know we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Grant.